Today's video is all about head-turning fragrances that exude that dark feminine energy. So if you want to find out more, then please keep on watching. Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if it's the first time you are visiting. Thank you so much for joining me today. As I already mentioned in the intro, today's video is going to be all about head-turning fragrances that exude that dark energy, and I am super excited to bring you this list today. I feel like I have some incredible fragrances to share with you. So without further ado, let's jump straight into the first fragrance. The first fragrance is from Miller Harris, and this is their newest release called Black Datura. And this fragrance inspired the whole theme of this video, which is that dark feminine energy. It's an absolutely head-turning fragrance, and I can't wait to share more about it. But firstly, I just want to mention that this part is in collaboration with Miller Harris, which I am so excited about. And Miller Harris is just such an incredible British brand. So to be able to collaborate and bring you this launch is so exciting to me. Now, Black Datura is a dominant floral fragrance that's very sexy and very mysterious. And the main notes include tuberose, datura, of course, as the name suggests, and ylang ylang. Now, if you watch my channel, you will know that tuberose isn't always my favorite note. I am very picky about the types of tuberose fragrances that I personally enjoy. And the way this has been done is absolutely insanely beautiful. It's a floral fragrance, yet it has a spiciness, it has a darkness throughout it. So you get quite a lot of tuberose in the opening, and you get a lot of that datura, which is a night blooming white floral. There's some balmy, waxy ylang ylang in here too, which is one of my favorite florals in perfumery. But what makes this fragrance really interesting is the addition of the darker notes. You're getting lots of myrrh, and you're also getting lots of incense, and it's so beautifully composed. And it's the most interesting white floral fragrance because of the juxtaposition between the beautiful, slightly heady white florals and then the deeper, darker notes. This is a very hypnotic, sultry, and smooth fragrance. I get a slight spiciness, so think of this like a spicy tuberose. The tuberose has that slight bubblegumness to it, but not too much. And then it's very spicy, which comes from the pink peppercorns. I'm getting some musk and amber in the dry down too, but I mostly pick up on that incense and that myrrh. And it's a very hypnotizing, dark, mysterious, and sexy fragrance, which is inspired by night tales. You get in a taxi and you don't know where the night's about to take you. And I just think that suits this fragrance so beautifully. It's the perfect date night fragrance. And I also feel like this is completely unisex. Whilst I am calling it a dark feminine energy fragrance, this would be amazing on anyone. This is one you absolutely have to get your nose on. Very unique. I do not have anything remotely similar to this in my collection. The quality is insane, as is all Miller Harris fragrances, and it has the most beautiful scent bubble and sillage around it. It was my scent of the day for my birthday, and I wore this out to dinner, and I feel like it was the perfect scent for that occasion. And I will be reviewing this over on my Instagram too, but I highly recommend getting a sample of this one. So Miller Harris do samples, and they also ship internationally. I am going to be giving away 20 free samples of this fragrance over on my Instagram, which is incredibly special. I can't wait for more of you to experience this fragrance. But thank you to Miller Harris for letting me showcase this fragrance to my audience, because it's a truly hypnotic fragrance that has really taken me by surprise. And I feel like is the perfect dark, sultry floral fragrance with a twist. The next fragrance is from Pernoire, and this one is called Mansa. And I feel like this perfectly sums up the dark feminine energy. It's extremely head turning and just such a sensual, sexy, dark and mysterious fragrance. Now, when I first saw this fragrance on Fragrantica, people were comparing it to one of my favorites, which is Peregrina by Tamine. And I can see where people are going with that. However, this one is a lot deeper, darker and denser. It's more sexy, it's sensual, and it has incredible longevity and projection. Now, in essence, this is a rose oud saffron fragrance, but it also has some amber in here. It's got this beautiful sweetness to it. There's this underlying spiciness which is coming from that saffron. But don't think of this as your traditional rose and oud fragrance. It's definitely got this beautiful sweetness to it. It's very complex. So if you liked Peregrina, but you needed a little bit more oomph, and you wanted to take something into the night, you wanted it to be a little bit more sexy and sultry, I would highly recommend trying to get your nose on Mansa. If I can find anywhere which sells DECANTS, I will link it down below. But I sprayed this perfume yesterday on this test strip, and it is still incredibly strong on here. It's so beautifully composed. The quality is insane. It's a very smooth oud, soft around the edges, but so sensual. It's giving off that dark energy, which I love about it. I do feel like this is more of a nighttime fragrance, but I would wear it during the day, but only in the very cool weather. And this fragrance just has some balls. Very good quality, and yeah, I can't wait to review this one in more detail because it's very new to my collection. I need a little bit more time with it, but this one fits the theme of this video so beautifully. So that was Mansa by Pernoire. The next fragrance is Black Nargamotha by EPC, which is the Experimental Perfume Club. And the Experimental Perfume Club is based in London, and they have insane quality fragrances. I've spoken about a few of their fragrances on my channel before. One of my all-time favorites is Cardamom Moss. Wow, it has one of the most intoxicating scent trails I've ever smelt. My husband was wearing it yesterday, and it just left a trail all the way through the house. Has the most insane projection, and it's beautiful. However, we're here to talk about Black Nargamotha because this fits the vibe of this video so beautifully. And this is one of these fragrances where I'm going to say you need to forget about the notes, because to me, this doesn't really smell as the notes would suggest, to my nose at the very least. So I would recommend trying to get a sample of this or starting with a 10 ml if you are going off the notes. But I get a lot of tonka bean in here. And there is no tonka listed in the notes on Fragrantica. But it has a slight similarity to another fragrance from EPC, which is called Tonka Extraordinaire, which I love, by the way, but this one is the deeper, darker and sultry sister of that fragrance. I'm getting a lot of cardamom, I'm getting a lot of cinnamon and saffron, which are listed on Fragrantica, but I am definitely getting that tonka bean sweetness front stage and center, and it is incredibly delicious. Yet at the same time, this has a mysterious quality to it. It's a little bit woody and a little bit green, but I mostly get tonka bean, cardamom, cinnamon and saffron with a slightly musky woody base. Incredible sillage. It's going to leave the most gorgeous cloud around you. Highly recommend Black Nargamotha. I would say for me, this is in my top 3 fragrances from the Experimental Perfume Club. Incredibly unique. I do not have anything like this in my collection. Other than Tonka Extraordinaire from the same house, they have a slight similarity to it, but this one is all of the vibes. I think it's incredible. The next fragrance is from Commodity, and this is Velvet Plus, which is from the Strongest Scent Space. So if you don't know, Commodity come in 3 different scent spaces, and I'm going to sum that up as scent strengths. So Velvet comes in the personal strength, which is more of a skin scent, but I will say the personal range normally projects quite beautifully too. It also comes in an expressive version, which is the middle ground, and then the bold range, which is supposed to fill up a whole room. And when it comes to Velvet, I would say this is the smokiest of the 3 and definitely the strongest, as the scent spaces would suggest. So this is a very smoky fragrance. It reminds me of being deep into the forest and there's a bonfire, and that smoke has covered all of my clothing and it's in my hair, and I'm maybe wearing a beautiful rose perfume, but more of a dark rose perfume, and it's mixed with that smoke. So in essence, this is a smoky rose perfume with a vanillic woody touch to it. If I could compare it to anything, it would be similar to Maison Margiela's replica By the Fireplace, but if you were to add a rose note into it, and this one is a little bit more dark and sultry, it has the most incredible scent bubble, and I feel like this just suits the video so perfectly. So I would highly recommend Velvet Bold if you want something that's smoky with a rose note. The next fragrance is from Stephane Humbert Lucas, and it is Venom Incarnet. And if you watch my channel, you probably already know that I absolutely adore this fragrance. Now, this is more of an intermediate dark feminine energy. It's not as dark, it's not as bold as some of the other fragrances within this list. Although it's still very much a bold fragrance, but it doesn't have as much of that dark energy. This is quite sweet and sensual, very sexy in my opinion. And I've always been on the hunt for the perfect strawberry fragrance that has a little bit of a backbone and does not smell juvenile. And I feel like Venom Incarnet just suits what I was looking for so well. It's a little bit similar to Xerjoff's La Capitale, but La Capitale is a little bit softer and has this transparent feel to it, whereas Venom Incarnate is more dense, sticky, and sweet. So what you're mostly going to get is a strawberry note mixed with a sweet, dense caramel, but then you've got that sexy leather, which gives it an edge. I feel like everyone needs to try this fragrance, especially if you like the sound of those notes. It's not necessarily a safe blind buy, but it's a completely intoxicating, head-turning fragrance that has just a little bit of that dark energy to it. Highly recommend Venom Incarnet. There's lots of reviews of this one on my channel. So yeah, that was by Stephane Humbert Lucas, and it is Venom Incarnet. And the last fragrance is from Tom Ford, and it is Noir de Noir. And this one definitely suits the vibes of this video. It is my favorite fragrance from Tom Ford, which was a difficult choice, but ultimately this is one of the best rose oud / rose patchouli fragrances in my collection. It has a twist to it. So it's not your traditional rose oud, rose patchouli. It has a truffle note in here, and the only way I can describe how that truffle note smells is it adds almost an oiliness to this fragrance and an earthiness. And I'm sure many of you have smelt truffle, and it gives us such a unique twist to it. Now, I also pick out some kind of dark chocolate note, which makes this dark and such a mysterious fragrance. You're mostly going to get a jammy, dark rose with some patchouli, a very smooth, soft oud. You're going to pick out that truffle, and I get almost like a dark chocolate powder throughout here. I'm sure many of you have tried this fragrance. It truly is special, And I know Tom Ford is very expensive, but I will link down a place where you can get this for 30% off. Well, it's 30% off right now, but they have great deals on Tom Ford, so I will link them down below. But yeah, this one definitely exudes dark energy. Totally unisex, so I'm not going to say dark feminine energy, but it gives off those dark energy vibes. So those were all of the fragrances that I wanted to talk about in today's video. Do let me know if any of them stood out to you, whether or not you like them, dislike them, or maybe you're somewhere in the middle. I would love to hear your feedback. But what I want to know, and it's the same thing that I always want to know, are what fragrances in your collection do you feel suit this vibe? I'm talking about head-turning fragrances that exude dark energy. Please do let me know down in the comments, because I always find the best recommendations in the comments section. But thank you so much for joining me today. It's been a pleasure as always. I hope to see you in a future video to come. Thank you so much, and goodbye.